Test. All right. When I first started reading and talking about books, I promised myself that I would never discuss bad books that I read, bad literature, um, which could be a subjective term. I would argue it's not. And I just finished a book rather quickly. There's a funny thing that happens when I read a bad book. I finish it really, really fast. And that's how I know it's a bad book. Because it doesn't make you think, it just propels you forward until you're at the end going, what? And that's exactly how I felt about this. There's no summation. I really don't want to hold it up in front of the kid, but I feel it's an international. I feel like I have to. Dark music. Oh my god. There's something about it's true crime. Well, not true crime because I don't think it's true, but it's got this kind of political crime dramatic sense about it. It's got terrible pace. There's no climactic part of the book. It's just a long description of some events that took place regarding a certain criminal case. It's super boring. It's the character development is not. It's zero. There's no characters. There's just a list of names that you need to remember in order to remember who they are and what they do and where they play a part in the story. But as far as like their trait, that like there's really no traits. It's just vague talking about traits that you think they have because the author told you that they have them, but there's no connection to who these people actually are. It's like it's infuriating, and there's terrible dialogue. I read a book long ago, probably about a year ago, and this is when I actually made the decision I'm not going to talk about bad literature because I think it's a little, it is subjective. People like books that they like, but it's just too much. And I've had some gin and tonic, and I'm not interested in keeping quiet about it. It's not good, and it's clearly a part of I don't know if it's a part of a sequel. David Lagerkrantz set it up like it's a sequel. There's just there's a whole chapter devoted to that's such a terrible story writing technique. You don't want to leave people at the end of the book on a cliffhanger. It's fine if you're in the middle of the book. You want to leave them on cliffhangers. Hey, you want to read the next chapter. It's going to be interesting. Maybe. I don't even know if I agree with that. But at the end of a book, yo, dude, you had a whole book to tell me a story. And you couldn't even finish it. And it's not even a problem I have with series of books. It's almost like an arrogance. It's like this. I don't know how to describe it. This story was so good that this last chapter is going to make you want to read the next story. And it's precisely because it's not good that I think that people get it's the formula of book. It's not like anything new or original or interesting. It's just this formula of scientific. It's not scientific at all. Gin and tonics. It's this formula of bad book. It's just like, hey, here's something that happens, cliffhanger to the next person, perspective switching all over the place. They can't just tell a linear story. They have to tell you a little snippet, which keeps your attention just long enough to where they can switch to the next person, and that keeps your attention just long enough to where they can go to the next chapter. And it's this ping pong of things happening, and it's so infuriating. And I know I'm reading a bad book when I finish it quickly. It's because there's nothing to think about. You're just like, okay, all right, next. You can get through it quickly, and that can have a tiny point of satisfaction with it. But at the same time, it's just, I don't think I know anything else. I didn't learn. Not even that I didn't learn anything. I didn't think about anything when I was reading this book. I mean, there was kind of a good point about U.S. interrogation techniques during 9/11, but even that, like, it was super shallow and ended up being completely pointless. Like, they brought it up and it was like kind of a point of consternation within the characters of this, and then they just got rid of it. Like, it never came to fruition. Like, I mean, I guess you could kind of say it did in some super anticlimactic way, that, you know, that some people from a foreign ministry come over to their house and they're like, hey, don't solve the murder, because you're gonna mess with the U.S. And the people who are solving the murder basically just go, we're gonna solve the murder. And then there's some super limp-wristed they throw some, they're flying, they throw some drugs into their bag, they think they're gonna get caught, and somehow this woman knows that they threw drugs into her bag. She's like, because of my upbringing, because I'm a person from the hood, I know when there's drugs in my bag. It's like, that's the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever heard. Sorry to swear. I told myself I would never talk about bad literature, and it's mostly because I don't read a lot of bad literature. But I got this book for no reason at all. I was in Barnes & Noble with a buddy of mine, and I passed by it, and I made the biggest mistake in the world. I thought, that looks interesting, and I bought it. And there's a few ways I can tell that it's not good. First of all, well, there's one way I can tell it's not good. It's got these pages that, like, they're not even. They're like unfinished paper. So, like, the page, I can't really show you, I don't think. Like, can you see? I don't know. They're like rough on the edge, and so it looks old, or I don't know what the point of that is. Like, and so it tells me that the person who wrote this book is clearly, or the publisher, whoever, the editor, I don't know who did it, but they were clearly more worried about selling you the book, going, hey, it's got these cool fringy pages that feel like they're not finished, that feel really like bad paper. Like, they were more worried about that than just what's in the book. You know what makes a good book? You know how you can tell a book is good? If it's just a cover with some pages. Like, it's not that hard. People have been doing it for, I want to throw the book, but I'm going to hit something over there. People have been doing it for centuries. Just put some pages in between some covers, and people will tell you if it's good. You don't have to leave fringes on the end of the pages. It's so bad. Not good. Like, it's infuriating. Well, I don't want to. I'm gin and tonic, so it's infuriating now. I'm not going to be that worried about it tomorrow. It's just, it can't be that. It's really hard to write a good book. I know it is. But, and that's why I don't really ever want to talk about bad literature, because there's a lot of it out there. And I'm sure I'll encounter more of it, and it is subjective. You know, people read bad books and they love them. I don't know why, because I don't know. And it's partly my fault. I've read a lot of really good books by some great authors who do excellent work in things like character development, setting up scenes, describing things, getting you attached to characters, allowing you to see yourself in characters, allowing situations to unfold in logical and like very real ways. It doesn't seem real. It seems like something that people read. For some reason, it's an international bestseller. And I disagree with, I bought it, so never mind. I don't disagree. I bought it. I'm a sucker for, and it's got this, I'm so tired of the genius trope. It's so super annoying. Like, you have this random person who's, smart. People can be smart. I'm not debating, but there's like this trope of person who is entirely infallible, and usually in some like darkly romantic way, like they're addicted to drugs, or they're, they go through some, they're manic depressive or something like that, but they're just geniuses and they can see right through everything. Like, it's not even that it's not believable. It's just tired. It's like, I'm so done with the genius trope. It's so popular these days. Like, I don't understand. In every TV show, every new book, there's a genius. There's like always this genius who knows everything. You can see directly through all the BS, and they just look at something and they look at it in like this entirely different way, and people are like, oh, how'd you see it in that way? You know, it's probably because they're like paranoid schizophrenic or something. It's probably because they're insane. Like there's no genius I don't know. It's just annoying. It's just annoying. And he speaks in Latin all the time, drops Latin phrases, and then at the end he recognizes the conceitedness of his Latin phrase dropping. He goes, well, I only say Latin because it makes me sound smarter, even though I am really smart and I can see through everything. It's just like, oh, it's such an annoying character. Don't like it. So unrealistic is the problem I have with it. Like, you can't create, it's almost like a Deus Ex Machina. You're creating this genius person to solve all the problems of your terrible story. You're like, well, this is hard to believe, but I have a genius, so the genius can just tell you why it's not hard to believe, because he knows everything, and there's no need for any normal person to actually figure it out, because I have a genius. There's a genius in the book. It solves everything. Yeah, here you go. Here's the answer, because I'm a genius, and I'm drug addicted and manic depressive, but at least my brain works good. At least I can see things that are, oh man, terrible. Don't buy it. Anyone who sees this, don't buy dark music. It's terrible. And yeah, I could go on about more things. It might not be worth it. Let me see if I can get into. No. Oh, they did make the one redeeming quality of the book is they made it's. What I'm going to go ahead and say this book is about, I'm going to say it is about the complete inadequacy and unimportance of viola players. It's the biggest viola player joke in the history of viola player jokes, because you essentially have a viola player who is the villain of, and that's because he is an inadequate viola player, that he becomes the villain. And maybe that was his. You know what? David Lagerkrantz is actually a genius, because it's not about storytelling. It's just about making fun of viola players, which the world has been doing since the existence of the viola, I'm sure. I don't play classical music. I don't care about viola players. I care about classical music, but viola players are fine. I'm sorry if I offended any of them. But I'm pretty sure they're used to it by this point. Holy shit, I don't know if I'm gonna publish this. It is Friday, December 2nd. I gotta pay my rent. Friday, December 2nd, 7:11 at night, p.m. That's all I have to say. Bad literature is so annoying. But gin and tonics are good.